Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. Or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name's Stas or Nastasia. Yeah, sorry, it's been a minute. I feel like have to remind myself what I normally say in these. Yeah, so happy New Year, happy late Christmas, I guess. Happy a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have to kind of a little bit explain myself, just very, very briefly. Obviously, this is my first trimester recap video, so it's pretty clear I'm pregnant. Not that you didn't see that before, probably I have a video announcing that I was pregnant and stuff like that. But the first trimester kicked my butt, as I'm going to be talking about, and it was really hard to do literally everything. And because of that, I had to take a pretty long break. I gave like one video in December, and that's all I could squeeze out of me. So, hello, I'm here to try to be getting back into the groove of things and more consistent. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for hanging around. Super excited to make this video. I have wanted to make this video for years, obviously before I got pregnant, before I even got married, all of that. Just because I was always so excited. I love watching people's pregnancy videos. If you don't, feel free to exit. This is probably gonna be a long one. But I genuinely love these videos. Even when I was never pregnant, and I wasn't even married yet, I loved watching these. I just found them really fascinating. So I hope you do too. Before we get into it, if you end up liking this video, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on a video every time I post, which should be more often now. And if you haven't already, check out my Patreon. I will have the link down below. Very briefly, if you don't know how Patreon works, it's kind of like a crowd-funded video, really a creative place, and I use it primarily to make more video content, to make really fun newsletters, to make different posts. I post recipes sometimes, I post pictures, I post lots of things, videos, all this stuff. It's a really amazing community over there. I love the people there. If you're on my Patreon already, shout out to you, thank you so much. And there's 3 levels. There's a $3, $5, and $15 level, and you can check them out and see they offer different things. Anyway, that link will be down below. I'm gonna have a video on there talking about everything I ate and didn't eat in my first trimester, and a very fun, interesting pickle story that involved an entire jar of pickles in 30 minutes. So, okay, so the first symptom, sorry if I'm out of breath a lot, that's been a huge symptom for me. I'm always out of breath. So, first symptom, so this is weeks 1 and 2 after conception, which is technically weeks 3 and 4 gestation age. So if you didn't know, the full 40 weeks of pregnancy, that's a full term pregnancy, or a due date pregnancy is 40 weeks long. However, that's gestation age. So that starts from the first day of your last period before getting pregnant to then the 40-week mark. So technically you have your period, and then usually, not for everybody, but usually it's about 2 weeks after your period ends that you ovulate, and usually you conceive the baby. And so it's really more 37, 38 weeks total, but I'm gonna be talking gestation age. So about 3 to 4 weeks gestation. My first symptoms were I was really tired out of nowhere. I could sleep, by the way, I'm looking at a lot of notes if I'm looking down. I could sleep a ton and still be tired. That was probably my first symptoms, was I was crashing by 8:30 p.m., which was not like me. Weird insomnia, especially a few days before I tested, pregnancy tested. I had a couple other people tell me this too. That they would just wake up at 4 in the morning, just wide awake, and be like, this is weird, just walking around, just not tired at all. That happened to me especially the week of testing, and then about a week after I tested as well, so weeks 4 and 5. Yeah, so I would wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. every day, just wide awake, ready to take on the day. So weird. Cramping on and off sporadically for about a week and a half. This is also a huge tell that I found of me actually being pregnant, because before I got pregnant, we got pregnant in October, by the way. But before that, we got married in March, and you know, you're always gonna have probably some kind of pregnancy scares when you first get married. We're doing natural family planning. I'm gonna do a whole video about that too. But anyway, and so there's been other times I would have like pregnancy scares during our marriage, but I never had this cramping, and it's not intense, but it's kind of like a pulling sensation. And this is actually baby attaching to the uterine lining, which is really cool. But I'd have that cramping kind of sensation, that pulling sensation for like a couple minutes, and then it would go away. Next day it'd come back, go away. It was weird. Very, very sore boobs. We're just gonna put that out there. Normally they get really sore before my period anyway, so I kind of thought it was just that. But there would be times that I'd wake up in the middle of the night from boob pain. So noticing smells a lot more. Crazy emotional, but that's also pretty normal before my period. I had like the very thirsty sensation about 2 days before testing. And I was a little bit nauseous the few days leading up to testing, not really too serious yet, just like, I don't wanna eat this, I don't have an appetite. Also interesting to note if you are interested in this at all. The morning before I tested that afternoon. But the morning before, I knew I was gonna take a pregnancy test, but I didn't tell my husband or anything. I woke up to pretty moderate cramps, and that was the day my period was supposed to start. So I was kind of sad because part of me kind of thought like, oh, you know, I thought I'd be pregnant, whatever. So I went to the bathroom, but I didn't start my period, so I was really confused. But it was pretty medium cramping that morning. Anyway. And then later that day, I tested. It was a very strong positive line, and I freaked out and told Kai that night. But yeah, so I was 4.5 weeks gestation age, 4.5 weeks when I found out we were pregnant. Okay, so then I had 1 week of feeling normal, and that was from when I tested. That was about halfway through week 4, so 4.5 when I first found out I was pregnant, to halfway through week 5, so 5.5. And that was it. That was the only time I felt pretty good. I felt really anxious, which is super normal because it's like I woke up in the middle of the night and then I'd remember all over again, oh my gosh, there's a baby in my tummy, and I would freak out. A good freak out, but also like a normal freak out. Your life has already changed. So I would sometimes, the anxiety would sometimes cause cramping, sometimes during the night and stuff like that. So I would just have to really focus on my breathing, and then the cramping would go away. I would just tense myself out. Okay, so moving on to halfway through week 5 to week 12. They were the worst. They were the absolute worst. Really quick to pause, actually, it's funny, if any of you guys follow Milena Ciciotti also, I'm sure a lot of you do, here on YouTube, she is also pregnant. I was cracking up when I found out because, first of all, a lot of people are pregnant right now, which is funny, but her and I are literally like 3 days apart based on what we're not friends or anything. I would love to be Milena's friend, but I just know through her videos and stuff that we're literally like 3 days of, our due dates are like 3 days apart. It's crazy. And our first trimesters were almost identical, and we're having almost the exact same like type of birth. It's so crazy. Like we're planning for the same type of birth. But something she mentioned in her first trimester video was she kept, saying like, I don't want this to scare anybody from getting pregnant, even though she had a really hard first trimester too. And I want to emphasize that too. I don't want you to be afraid. I don't want this to be a negative video. There's so many positives. It's so beautiful. However, I do want to highlight some of the really hard things because I think there's all this pressure for mothers out there who are pregnant that like if you don't enjoy every single second, then you're not grateful somehow for your baby, and that's not true. And like you have to feel like you have to put on this brave face and not be in any pain at all, or at least pretend like you're not because you're pregnant, and what a blessing, and you can't act like you're going through anything. And so anyway, the only things that would help me when it came to videos during the first trimester was looking up other people's first trimester videos where they were having a really hard time too, and just seeing other moms be strong helped me. I was like, I'm not alone, I'm not weak, it's okay. this is really, really hard, and that's okay. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to hide that it's hard. So that's what I want to convey here, but I also want to convey joy and positivity, that it is beautiful. It can be beautiful and really, really hard at the same time, if that makes sense. So, nausea and food aversion came on pretty quickly, and it stayed a while. It stayed a minute. I really, really hoped, and again, I'll probably go into this in another video too, I really worked on my hormones from April until October, so about a full 6 months. And I got my hormone levels way better than they've ever been. And so because of that, I thought going into pregnancy, I would maybe not have any nausea or very minimal, because from what I've researched at least, when you have an excess of estrogen and you're estrogen dominant too much, then it can cause a lot of nausea. So I had high expectations. To be fair though, I never actually threw up. I haven't thrown up my entire pregnancy. Not at all. However, some people think that means then like, oh, then it was easy for you, and it was not. But I wonder if it would have been worse if I hadn't balanced my hormones. Anyway, it was still pretty miserable. I didn't have morning sickness, I had all day sickness. There was never, unless I was sleeping and literally unconscious, that was the only time I ever had relief. I would always, so I would never throw up, but I would always be on the brink, literally right on the edge of throwing up. I would always constantly feel like I am about to throw up, but I never actually threw up. So that wasn't great. I also have a really strong gag reflex. I've barely thrown up in my life. Like I can probably count on one hand in my 25 years of life throwing up. So that probably prevented me from throwing up as well. I am really grateful I didn't throw up, because honestly, the worst part for me probably would have been like the food that was already really hard for me to get down. I would have thrown it back up and been like, I have to eat again. I hated eating the whole first trimester. I did not enjoy, again, I'm not trying to make this negative, but I want to be honest too. I hated food and that was really hard. It's just to validate your feelings of like, if you're going through the same thing, it is really hard, and it is hard to describe to other people how frustrating it is to want to eat so bad, like to want to have an appetite, to want to like think about anything and be like, that sounds good, or like something you used to love, you know what I mean? It was, yeah, so food aversion was actually harder for me than the nausea was itself, which I did not expect at all. I could at least like breathe through nausea, but like with food aversion, it was such a mental game for me, because I hated literally 98% of all food. And I'm not exaggerating. And the 2%, I still didn't like it. I just felt like I didn't hate it, but I knew if I didn't eat, it would impact the baby. So it was like, I couldn't just breathe through it. I literally had to do the thing I hated. Does that make sense? So it was like a constant mental and physical game for me that I had to kind of overcome. Thanksgiving was hard. I don't think people realize the weight of a holiday being surrounding food. The whole holiday is about food until you literally hate food. And that was like in the thick of it. That was like week 7 or something like that. I could be off on that, but it was something like that. Something else, I never spotted blood in my first trimester. That can be normal. I'm not saying it always is, but it can be. And cramping, I would sometimes have. Now, what I've been told is if you have cramping and you have blood, can be concerning and you should call somebody. I never had any blood. I never even had any implantation bleeding when the baby was implanting, which is pretty normal, but I never had that. Hunger pains, this was interesting in the first trimester. So normally when I'm hungry and not pregnant, my hunger pains will be more of like a gurgling, like I'm hungry. You know, I might start to get like hangry, but it isn't like painful. Or it isn't the same kind of painful, but it was very interesting during pregnant. I mean, I'm still pregnant, but it's not as intense now because I'm eating more. But during the first trimester was very interesting, hunger pains, because like it would literally feel so intense of pain in my stomach that there was one day that I was actually very concerned and I thought something was wrong with the baby, because the pain was so intense. It kind of felt like an intense cramping, or when you eat something really, really bad and you have to like go to the bathroom because you have all that pain. It was like all that at once, and I was so confused. And then I literally came back and ate like a cookie or something, and it immediately went away within seconds. It was so bizarre. So hunger pains were weird for me. So something else I want to note, because I think this is really important. I didn't even realize this until after I was out of the first trimester, but the food aversion and the nausea, it really did affect me. It was also going through, you know, winter, the end of fall into winter, so everything's kind of bland and cold. I hated all food. I didn't realize how much of a depression it kind of threw me into. I'm okay, not scary depression, but it did really, really, really impact me mentally. And I think I wish I could have prepared for that aspect a little bit better. Going into it mentally, next time with our next pregnancy one day, I definitely think I will have that in the back of my head and be more aware of that. But I was in such a survival mode that I didn't even realize it during the time. It was kind of when I got out of the first trimester that I looked back and was like, whoa, I was not in a good place. I was very sad. And I wasn't sad about being pregnant. I wasn't sad about the baby. I was so happy about that. It was like, I was so sad of how I felt every single day. I was sad that like I wanted to enjoy it more, but I felt so sick. Like it was just a lot of emotion. So I thought that might be important to mention in case somebody else feels the same way as I did. Another symptom, my boobs continued to hurt, and they still do. I think I've just accepted that. That's pretty normal. I mean, you're literally, your body is preparing to feed a human for up to like 2 years of life. Like that's a big job. So yeah, they're very itchy. Lots of stretch marks on my chest. And so that's a thing. I was especially exhausted weeks 8 through 11. I could sleep literally 10 plus hours a night and still need naps during the day. That's super normal. That's when your hormones are starting to get at the highest they'll be all pregnancy. They like peak then, so it's very normal to be just completely exhausted. I really wanted to work out this entire time. I had the mindset, when I get pregnant, I'm gonna work out every single day. I'm gonna do something, LOL. I could not. I actually am really glad I didn't try, because I was that sick. I literally think I would have passed out. Like I couldn't even walk on a treadmill. I couldn't do anything. So don't beat yourself up if you can't either, if you're that sick. And then fun thing, we had our 12-week appointment and got to hear baby's heartbeat for the first time, and that was really cool. So moving on to weeks 12 and a half through 15. So by week 13, that's the end of the first trimester. However, my symptoms didn't go away until week 15-ish. So these were definitely starting to slow down when it came to how intense my symptoms were, but I still had them. So I had symptoms, like pretty intense symptoms of some kind, halfway through week 5 to halfway through week 15. So 10 weeks solid. It was about like it was like halfway through week 15 that I had a little bit of that burst of energy. I didn't need as much sleep. I started getting my appetite back. Food aversion was still there in the beginning of week 15. It was like halfway through 15 that it went away. So that might not be your situation though. I know some people who they only had food aversion or nausea for maybe a week or 2. And that would be incredible. And I genuinely want that for every woman. I don't want you to be sick as long as I was. But if you are, like, you're not alone. It is really hard, okay? It's really hard. And I want you to feel valid in that. And I know, like, everybody would say, but it's worth it, it's worth it. I know it's worth it. Obviously, I know it's worth it. Like, I will go through that again for as many children as the Lord blesses us with one day. But That doesn't mean it isn't really freaking hard, okay? During weeks 12 and a half to 15, like the beginning of 15, I was slowly able to start eating more food in general and a more variety of foods too. I started enjoying smoothies again. I started to crave my healthy diet again. Like I said, I'm gonna go more into the food aspect because food was such a weird, big thing my first trimester. I'm doing a whole video on that for my Patreon. So it'll be literally my cravings, the weird cravings I had, the things I hated, what I had to have so badly that I actually cried, like just different things like that. And then what I didn't eat and just all those things, that will be on that video because that is a whole video in itself, I promise. So exhaustion started to lessen and I could sleep 9 hours a day and feel pretty good. I'm sleeping about 8.5 right now, and honestly, I'm kind of struggling. I could use a little bit more. So 9 really is the sweet spot for me. I didn't sleep much at all last night though, so it's just certain nights I can't sleep very well and certain nights I can. It just kind of depends. An overview. The first trimester sucked, like way more than I anticipated it to, than I imagined it to. I kept saying, I thought this would be more fun. I always imagined this being more fun than it has been. I'm really, really glad to be out of it. I am thankful for this pregnancy. I'm so thankful for this baby. I'm so thankful we had a healthy, first trimester overall, and that it was just me feeling sick and nothing's actually wrong with baby or anything like that. I'm very grateful for all those things, but there is not even an ounce of me that misses the first trimester. There's not even an ounce of me. So yeah, I lost weight. So I did not actually lose pounds on the scale. Like I weighed myself. I knew my weight before I got pregnant. I didn't mean to, but I just knew what I always was. I didn't change at all. And then at my 12-week appointment, they weighed me and I think maybe I went down like a pound or two. It wasn't like as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but I did lose quite a bit of inches. If you don't like talking about weight or hearing weight, maybe fast forward through this a little bit. But I think it's important because a lot of people, it's not great to lose weight, obviously in your first trimester, but it is pretty common because of the nausea and some people throwing up and then the food aversion. So I think I would have lost way more if I was throwing up. So I'm glad I wasn't. But yeah, so I had just been measuring myself for like fitness, different things in fitness, and just to I didn't have a certain goal in mind. I find it interesting to keep measuring myself throughout the years. I find the human body very fascinating and seeing how it ebbs and flows. So I had measurements from about like September-ish, and we got pregnant in October. And then I measured myself throughout the first trimester and at the like 12-week mark and stuff like that, 13-week mark. And I lost 6.5 inches overall on my body. Not right on my belly, of course, although weirdly enough, it didn't change because I think I lost fat, but then baby, so it kind of counteracted. But yeah, I lost quite a bit of weight on like inches on my arms, on my legs, on my booty, RIP, my hips, my chest, just yeah, all over there. But I didn't lose any weight on the scale, and funny enough, I actually didn't. I had my most recent appointment, and I still haven't gained pounds on the scale. So I've literally stayed the same before, during my first trimester, and now in the beginning of my second trimester of pregnancy on weight on the scale. If that's interesting to you at all, I'm sure I will gain weight. I'm working hard to eat a lot more and get a lot more calories in to kind of make up for the first trimester. So I'm actually hoping to gain weight. And again, I only mention that. I'm not bragging, I promise I'm not bragging. This is literally just kind of like an interesting, just a factual thing that happened to me. Also, something I wanted to mention, my libido was very low / non-existent the entire first trimester. This is not talked about enough on YouTube, and especially among Christian women, it is extremely common to have a low to non-existent libido during your first trimester. Is it ideal? No. And I'm hoping actually, as I continue to heal my hormones, like postpartum and all these things, that maybe with my next pregnancy, that won't be the case. Maybe I'll just feel like a spring bunny all the time. But that was not the case. And I think it's worth noting because it can feel really isolating. It can feel like, oh my gosh, am I like weird? Am I off? Is something wrong with me? Like, am I a bad wife? Like, different things. Not that my husband made me feel that way at all. Not even a little bit. He's a superhero to me. But yeah, I wanted to add that in there because there's a lot going on. Your hormones are crazy changing. You're exhausted. You feel sick all the time. I was in the exact same boat as you. We are the same. Feel validated in those feelings. I am going to have a whole video that it goes next on my channel about like answering pregnancy questions, birth questions, all that stuff that you guys asked me over on Instagram. So I'll be answering a ton of stuff there. You feel free to also comment any below like questions that I can answer in that video if you want. But yeah, there were a lot of questions and I have a feeling I'll be answering a lot of the questions you already have in that video. And like I said, I will be having a lot on my Patreon as well. If you're interested in knowing what's coming up on my Patreon, that one about what I ate and didn't eat and a pickle story time for my first trimester. I have one going up soon called Preparing to be a Wife, like 7 tips that I kind of give. If you want to be a wife one day, you're engaged, you're dating, you have no idea, you know what I mean? Just different things. But if you have that desire and kind of like what I wish I would have done or what helped me a lot. And then I also have one that's going up soon, things to do on like hard mental health days, like different things, just like a brainstorm thing of kind of like just an encouraging video, something that can maybe help you start your day right, different things like that, and just be hopeful. And then things that we are not putting on our baby registry, and if I will regret it or not. So I will be doing a video on here at some point about, like here on YouTube, of things I will be putting on my baby registry. We've already pretty much finalized our baby registry, honestly, but this one on Patreon would be things that I am specifically not putting on and why. So kind of interesting. So yeah, if you're interested, that link is down below. And you can even just go to the page and check it out and look at the different tiers and kind of what it means payment wise and different things. It's month to month. You can cancel any time. And it directly financially contributes to our family and helps me and Kai and now little baby. So we really appreciate you. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you guys soon. Love you so much. Bye.